This video focuses on the dangers of teens' extreme closeness to their friends' family affiliates. Sometimes, teenagers' close relationships with friends and family form lasting bonds. In other instances, they create conflicts among friends and family members to the extent that injuries can be sustained, emotions can be manipulated, and in the most extreme cases, lives can be lost. A notable case is that of a teenager who murdered his friend after discovering a romantic relationship between his friend and his mother. In May 2016, 19-year-old Lucas Bigley fatally stabbed his former best friend, Matthew Wilson, also 19, upon learning that Wilson had begun a romantic relationship with Bigley's mother. The attack occurred in the early hours of May 28th on Wadsley Lane in Sheffield. Emergency services found Wilson with multiple stab wounds. He was rushed to the hospital, but later died from his injuries. Shortly after, officers tracked Bigley down to a home nearby and found him trying to wash blood from his hands and wearing heavily blood-stained clothes. The knife used in the attack was also found in the garden of the property following a search. Bigley was immediately arrested and taken into custody. Detective Chief Inspector Craig Jackson, who oversaw this investigation, said after leaving court yesterday, "This was a violent and brutal attack on Matthew, a young man whom Lucas Bigley once considered his friend. There is no excuse for the level of violence he exerted on Matthew, who suffered several severe stabs, any one of which would have proved fatal." Following a 2-week trial, Bigley was found guilty of murder and sentenced to life in prison. This might have been motivated by jealousy and betrayal. One might have expected Lucas to take it as an expression of love amongst the parties, but he was a teenager at the time of the incident. What was Lucas Bigley's mother's confession in this case? Perhaps at 19 years old, Matthew Wilson could not have been said to have been abused by her. However, there is a feeling of guilt for one's son having to face the magnitude of punishment for that level of involvement. The same is true of the guilt she could feel for the loss of another person's son, even because of her level of involvement. Not to be left out is a life sentence for his son. This case garnered significant media attention due to the complex emotional dynamics and the violent outcomes stemming from personal relationships. Also worthy of illustrating is the case of a teen girl who developed a relationship with her mother's boyfriend and got her mother killed for objecting to the affair. A shocking incident of illicit liaisons with an even more alarming end came to light in Gujarat. In Budge, a 17-year-old girl, along with her boyfriend, ended the life of her mother. Both females were having an affair with the same person, and the victim didn't approve of her daughter's relationship with him. Hence, the daughter devised a scheme to remove her mother from the way. She and her lover killed her mother with the help of a friend and buried her body on the beach by the sea in Kutch. The Mundra Marine police have arrested her, as well as her 37-year-old lover, Yogesh Jodhiana, and his 35-year-old friend, Naren Jogi. All were residents of Madhapar village close to Budge. Lakshmi married Jitendra about 7 years ago. This was her second marriage. Her only daughter from the first marriage came to live with them in Madhapar. Things started to take a turn for the worse when Lakshmi fell in love with Yogesh Jodhiana, who was a painter by profession, 6 months ago. This led to major fights between the husband and wife when he learned about the affair. The perpetrator had begun to visit their house in his absence. Meanwhile, the teen started accompanying him to painting jobs, and the two grew a liking for each other. Lakshmi Bhatt found out about the development, which resulted in bitter altercations with her daughter. Police found the decomposed body of a woman at an isolated spot near the seashore close to Hammermora village, some 55 kilometers from Madhapar, on July 13th. The forensic post-mortem did not produce any clues about her identity or the reason behind the death, and no missing report had been filed in any police station either. They were only confident that it was a murder. Authorities commenced the probe and printed leaflets with a description of the deceased, which were distributed in Gujarat State Road Transport Corporation (GSRTC), buses, private passenger cars, villages, and other public locations. People were asked to notify them immediately if they learned anything. An officer stated the place where the body was found was completely isolated. Very few people, like local fishermen or cattle breeders who are familiar with the area's geography, come here. Therefore, there was a strong possibility of involvement of some local person. Police then enlisted a few residents of adjacent villages as informants after gaining their trust and found out whether any strangers had lately visited the village or the coastline. They were also informed by several locals that 4 individuals came to Hammermora around a month and a half prior in order to attend a social event. They obtained the function's date and obtained that day's call detail records. The police also uncovered that Yogesh Jodhiana's home was close to the crime scene. The police nabbed him after they acquired his address and questioned him, during which he admitted to the murder. The 3 culprits planned to kill Lakshmi Bhatt by bringing her to the social gathering, according to the investigation. They arrived in Hammermora on July 13th as intended, spent the day at the beach, where Yogesh Jodhiana struck the victim repeatedly with a blunt object and buried her body on the beach by the sea in Kutch. This case underscores the tragic consequences that can arise from complex interpersonal relationships and misunderstandings within families. Ever seen a dead body? 14-year-old allegedly invited friend to see mom's corpse after killing her. A teenager accused of fatally shooting her mother before attempting to kill her stepfather allegedly invited a friend over to view her mother's corpse. Carly Madison Gregg, 14, was arrested in March in connection with the shooting to death of her mother and the non-fatal shooting of her stepfather. The suspect was arrested on charges of murder and attempted murder. She has pleaded not guilty to the charges and was tried as an adult. In a preliminary hearing recorded and released by the blog Jackson Jambalaya on Tuesday, investigators spoke about the suspect's seemingly nonchalant behavior after allegedly shooting her mother as captured in home security cameras. The footage from the cameras showed the minutes leading up to the killing, the suspect and her mother returned home, and after some time, the suspect was seen going into her mother's bedroom, Rankin County investigator Zachary Cotton said at the hearing. Then you hear a gunshot, a scream, followed by 2 more gunshots, Cotton said. One video shows the suspect returning to the kitchen where she was seen texting from a phone. Cotton said, adding that their later investigation found the teen was allegedly messaging her stepfather, asking when he would be home, and also shot him on his return. In between the time she allegedly shot her mother and her stepfather, the suspect was seen allegedly singing to her dog, Cotton said. At one point, the suspect asked a friend to come over, saying it was an emergency. After the friend was driven over to the residence by her father, the suspect asked the friend if she had ever seen a dead body before. When the friend said no, the suspect proceeded to show her deceased mother. Cotton claimed, further alleging that the suspect also showed her friend the murder weapon and told her she had fired 3 shots each at her mother and stepfather. The stepfather told investigators that the suspect was armed with a pistol and shot him in the shoulder upon his return home. Police say, according to the Clarion Ledger, the man claimed he was able to fight the gun away from her before she fled the scene across their backyard. She was captured a short time later near the house. Another notable case is the Ohio teen who gave a 33-year-old boyfriend an ultimatum to kill his mom. When he didn't, she bludgeoned the woman to death. Caitlin Coons, then 17, reportedly admitted that she killed her adult boyfriend's mother because she felt the mom disapproved of their relationship. An Ohio teenager accused of murdering her adult boyfriend's mother after giving him an ultimatum to do so was sentenced along with her boyfriend, who helped dispose of his mother's body. Caitlin Coons, 18, and Jonathan Jones, 34, both pleaded no contest to aggravated murder and abuse of a corpse in the 2023 death of Nicole Jones. Lucas County Prosecutor Julia Bates said in a statement obtained by Fox 8, WTOL, and WDVG. After being convicted, the pair were each sentenced to life in prison with the eligibility for parole after 25 years. Before the plea deal, Coons, who was 17 at the time of the murder, had been charged as an adult. As part of the plea agreement, prosecutors dropped multiple additional charges against Coons and Jonathan. Prosecutors previously said that Coons admitted to killing 53-year-old Nicole on April 19, 2023, by bludgeoning her over the head with a rock in her Toledo, Ohio home because she felt Nicole disapproved of her relationship with her son.
On April 11th, 2023, Coons went missing from her foster home and moved in with her boyfriend, Jonathan, who was living with his mother, Nicole, at the time. Coons reportedly gave Jonathan 5 hours to kill his mother, threatening to end their relationship if he didn't. When Jonathan did not kill his mother, Coons took it upon herself to murder her, prosecutors said, per the outlet. Court documents obtained by WTOL state that Coons and Jonathan then disposed of Nicole's body in a dumpster at an apartment complex. Authorities said they still have not found Nicole's body, per the outlet. In their recorded interviews, both defendants detailed wrapping the body of Nicole Jones in tarps and placing her in the trunk of her vehicle, prosecutor Jennifer Liptek-Wilson said, according to WTVG. The two of them had dinner with the body of Nicole Jones still in the truck of the vehicle. The pair then fled to Mexico, where they were arrested in May 2023, weeks after the murder, authorities said. In a previous statement, the U.S. Marshals Service said Jonathan had been wanted for pandering obscene material and child endangerment in Wood County, and Coons was considered an endangered missing child from Canton, Ohio. He had already been convicted on the charges, but had evaded sentencing, WTVG previously reported. Following this week's sentencing, Coons and Jonathan face a wrongful death lawsuit filed in April by the administrator of Nicole's estate, according to court records obtained by Fox 8. According to the WTOL, the suit seeks $25,000 in damages and other associated costs. In court, Nicole's brother, Robert Jones, shared how the loss of his sister affected him. The agony of losing Nikki is compounded by the unimaginable betrayal we feel, Robert Jones said, according to WTVG. We are denied the closure that comes with laying a loved one to rest, and we are haunted by unanswered questions and horrific imaginings of her final moments. Also, a British boy, 14, was ordered by a judge to remain in Ghana after his parents sent him to boarding school. The parents who abandoned their 14-year-old son at a Ghanaian boarding school over fears he was joining a London gang are allowed to leave him there, a judge has ruled. The teenager, who cannot be named, took his parents to court in an attempt to return home to the UK. He had claimed his parents had physically and emotionally abandoned him. In response, the boy's family said they believed he was becoming involved in gang activity. The teen says his parents deceived him by saying they were visiting Ghana to care for a sick relative. Therefore, he only brought a few of his belongings. The boy now claims he was receiving inadequate food and education at his school and is being mistreated. But in a ruling, Mr. Justice Hayden stated that the young boy from London posed a greater risk in the UK than in Ghana. I recognize that this is in many ways both a sobering and rather depressing conclusion, the judge admitted, adding that the parents' decision fell within the generous ambit of parental decision-making. After being left at the school, the teenager reached out to the British consulate and a child welfare organization. His lawyers describe him as polite and articulate with a passion for football and cooking. Barrister Amin Elgadi, who represented the parties, told Metro, "This case is interesting because, while it was accepted that the boy's home was in London, the court still decided he should remain in Ghana. It highlights the very real risks of potential gang involvement in London and engages the tensions between the rights of the child and the views of the parents. The High Court heard that the boy had poor school attendance, was aggressive, and was susceptible to grooming. Concerns were raised about alleged phone theft, suspicious Snapchat conversations, and his possession of expensive clothing and multiple phones." Rebecca Fowlks, representing the boy's father, said social workers reported that before leaving the UK, the boy was difficult to manage, and his mother resorted to physical discipline. Fowlks concluded, "From the father's perspective, there was a clear deterioration in his son's behavior with a move towards criminal activities. In summary, the storylines reveal a powerful truth. Teenagers, while growing in intelligence and independence, are still neurologically and emotionally developing. Their ability to discern healthy boundaries and resist manipulation is limited, especially when placed in close, unsupervised proximity to adults outside their immediate family. The video underscores the real risks that come with teens forming overly personal bonds with friends, older siblings, parents, or other affiliates. Relationships that can easily be misunderstood, exploited, or manipulated. Key advisory points. 1. For parents and guardians. Set clear boundaries. Encourage friendships, but set limits on the time your teen spends in other households, especially overnight or during unsupervised visits. Know your child's circle. Be familiar with your child's friends and their families. Always verify who they are spending time with. Keep communication open. Create a safe, judgment-free space where teens can talk about unusual or uncomfortable interactions. 2. For caregivers and social workers. Watch for behavioral shifts. Sudden emotional changes, secretive behavior, or withdrawal may signal inappropriate relationships. Educate teens on boundaries. Host discussions or workshops on personal safety, emotional manipulation, and consent without fear or shame. Build trust. Be the adult teens feel safe turning to before they fall too deep into risky situations. 3. For school administrators. Supervise and monitor school social spaces, clubs, after-school programs, trips, and track the adult-student dynamic closely. Train staff to spot red flags in students' associations beyond school. Collaborate with parents when patterns of over-involvement with a friend's family begin to emerge. Note that teen closeness to friends' families is not inherently harmful, but extreme, unsupervised closeness can blur relational lines and put teens at risk of undue influence or harm. This video reminds us that safeguarding young minds requires awareness, boundaries, and proactive adult involvement. When adults stay engaged and informed, teens are empowered to grow safely, without losing their sense of freedom or trust. A popular African proverb quoted globally says, "It takes a village to raise a child." This proverb symbolizes the universal truth that the upbringing, safety, and moral development of a child is a shared responsibility, not just of parents, but of extended family, neighbors, teachers, community leaders, and society at large. The roles of each party include, and are not limited to, the following. Parents. Limit unsupervised visits, educate teens on emotional manipulation, and monitor behavior changes. Schools. Partner with local safeguarding firms, host workshops, and train staff in abuse prevention. Governments. Strengthen child protection desks in police stations and ministries. Social workers. Refer vulnerable teens to private counseling partners. So, parents or caregivers should consult authorized and reliable private and public organizations to fix noticeable threats in their children, especially teenagers. Some of these organizations globally include Family First Adolescent Services, Florida, U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, HHS, Administration for Children and Families, ACF, in the USA, Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, SAMHSA, in the USA, National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, NCMEC, in the USA, State Departments of Education, DOE, in the USA, Young Minds, Private Arm Plus Charity Support, in UK, Place Dvabeuka in UK, IFS Essen Institute for Systemisch Familientherapie, in Germany, Espace Famille Thérapie Paris in France, Family Supporters in Netherlands, Kids Cape in UK, CyberSafe Kids in Ireland, Safer Recruitment Consortium, UK/EU projects, COP Education Think You Know in Europe, Educare, UK-based but EU accessible, Custodio, Spain/global, BARC, US/EU accessible, Mentally Aware Nigeria Initiative Mani in Nigeria, Kairomo Hospital Group, Nairobi, Inuka Wellness Digital Platform, Kenya, the Family Life Center, Johannesburg, EduTrust Nigeria, Educare South Africa, Nigeria, Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Development, Kenya, Department of Children's Services under Ministry of Labor and Social Protection, Ghana, Department of Social Welfare under Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection,